Hey friends, I'm Wanda. I'm 28 years old, and I love playing Minecraft to relax and reading some of the most interesting Reddit stories. So get comfy, settle in, and let's enjoy today's story together. Story 1. I don't even know where to start with this one. I'm 26F, work as a veterinary nurse at an animal hospital, and I thought I knew my best friend better than anyone in the world. Turns out, I didn't know her at all. Meet Riley Chen. We've been inseparable since we were 7 years old. Met in 2nd grade when her family moved next door to mine in suburban Phoenix. You know those friendships where you basically become sisters? That was us. Sleepovers every weekend, matching friendship bracelets, shared diaries, the whole 9 yards. Riley was the maid of honor at my high school graduation party. I was hers when I got into Arizona State for pre-vet. She switched her major from education to psychology so we could stay at the same school. Riley's always been the more outgoing one. I'm pretty introverted, prefer animals to people most of the time. And I've always been grateful to have someone like her who could drag me out of my shell. She's funny, charming, knows exactly what to say in social situations where I'd rather hide in a corner. I genuinely thought she was the best friend anyone could ask for. Here's the thing though, I've had terrible luck with relationships. Like, historically awful. In college, I dated this guy Marcus for 8 months. Everything seemed perfect until he suddenly broke up with me, claiming he needed space to figure himself out. Then there was David, who I met through a mutual friend at 24. We dated for 6 months, talked about moving in together, and then he ghosted me completely. Just stopped responding to texts, blocked me on social media, the works. After David, there was Trevor. We met at a coffee shop near the animal hospital where I work. He was sweet, funny, loved dogs, seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. We dated for 4 months, and I was starting to think maybe this could be something real. Then one day he sat me down and said he'd heard some things about me that made him uncomfortable, and maybe we should take a break. What kind of things? I asked. Just things about your personality, how you treat people. I don't want to get into specifics. I was devastated. What kind of person was I that kept driving men away? Riley was always there to pick up the pieces, bringing wine and ice cream, telling me those guys were idiots who didn't deserve me anyway. You're too good for them, Nat, she'd say. They can't handle how amazing you are. Looking back now, I should have found it weird that Riley always seemed to have insider information about my breakups. She'd know details about what the guys were thinking before I did. When Marcus broke up with me, Riley somehow knew he'd been having doubts for weeks. When David ghosted me, Riley mentioned she'd seen him on dating apps before I even knew he was gone. I just pay attention, she'd say when I asked how she always seemed to know everything. I look out for you. 3 months ago, I started dating someone new. Alex Morrison, 28, works as a physical therapist at the sports medicine clinic down the street from my work. We met when I brought my neighbor's injured dog in for a consultation about hydrotherapy. Alex was covering for their usual vet tech, and we started talking about animal rehabilitation. Alex was different from the guys I'd dated before. More mature, more direct about his feelings. Actually seemed to enjoy spending time with me instead of just tolerating it. He'd text me good morning every day, bring me coffee when I worked late shifts, and genuinely seemed interested in my work and my life. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I'd found someone who actually liked me for me. Riley's reaction to Alex was strange. Usually, she'd want to meet any guy I was seeing immediately, give him the best friend interrogation, decide whether he was worthy of my time. With Alex, she kept making excuses. I'm too busy with work this week. I'm not feeling well. Maybe next time. You two should have more alone time before I intrude. When she finally met Alex after 6 weeks of dating, she was polite but distant. After he left, she made comments about how he seemed fake nice and was probably putting on an act. There's something off about him, Nat. I can't put my finger on it, but something doesn't feel right. I figured she was just being protective. Riley had never particularly liked any of the guys I'd dated, which I attributed to her looking out for me after so many bad relationships. 2 months into dating Alex, things were going really well. We'd started staying over at each other's places. He'd met my parents, and I was starting to think this might be heading somewhere serious. That's when the weird stuff started happening. Alex began mentioning things about me that I'd never told him. Personal stuff, embarrassing stories from college, details about my family that I definitely hadn't shared. How did you know about that? I'd ask. You told me, remember, last week when we were watching that movie, except I knew I hadn't told him. I'm pretty private about certain things, and some of the stuff he was mentioning were stories I'd only ever told Riley. Then Alex started asking questions about my past relationships that felt oddly specific. So with David, was the problem that you were too clingy? Did Marcus break up with you because you have trust issues? I heard you can be pretty jealous when you're in relationships. I started feeling like Alex was building a case against me based on evidence I hadn't provided. When I asked where he was getting this information, he'd get vague. Just things I've picked up. People talk, you know. What people? We moved in completely different social circles, except for Riley. And I couldn't imagine her sharing personal details about my past relationships with someone she'd barely met. 3 weeks ago, Alex and I had our first real fight. He accused me of being emotionally manipulative and said he'd heard I had a pattern of using guilt trips to control boyfriends. What the fuck are you talking about? I asked. The way you acted when I had to cancel our date last week because of that work emergency, making me feel guilty, acting like I don't prioritize you, except I hadn't acted like that at all. I'd been disappointed but understanding. Told him work came first and suggested we reschedule. I had no idea where he was getting this interpretation of events. Alex, I literally told you it was fine and that I understood. But that's not how it came across to people who know you well. Again, with the mysterious people. I was starting to feel like I was going crazy. Last Thursday, Riley and I were having our usual weekly dinner at this Mexican place we've been going to since college. I was telling her about the fight with Alex, how confused I was about his accusations. Maybe he's just not the right guy for you, she said, picking at her enchiladas. If he's already finding problems with your personality, it's probably not going to work out. But that's the thing, Riley. I don't think I'm doing the things he's accusing me of. It's like he's getting information about me from someone else. What do you mean? He knows things I never told him. Stories about my past, details about my other relationships, and he's asking questions that feel like someone coached him. Riley got very quiet. Maybe he's just intuitive, or maybe someone's been talking to him about me. Who would do that? I looked at her directly. You're the only person who knows all these stories, Riley. Natalie, you can't seriously think I'm sabotaging your relationship. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just trying to figure out how Alex knows things I never told him. But something in her expression made me realize I was onto something. She looked guilty. Not just uncomfortable guilty, but caught red-handed guilty. Riley, I might have mentioned a few things. What kind of things? Just context about your past relationships, so he'd understand you better. What fucking context? She put down her fork and looked at her hands. I told him about how clingy you got with David and how you used to guilt trip Marcus when he wanted to hang out with his friends. I thought if Alex knew what to watch out for, maybe things would work out better this time. I stared at her. You told my boyfriend that I'm clingy and manipulative. I was trying to help. Help who? Because it sure as hell wasn't helping me. That's when she started crying. I don't want you to get hurt again, Nat. You always get so attached so fast. And then you get your heart broken. And I have to pick up the pieces. So you decided to torpedo my relationship preemptively. I didn't torpedo anything. I just gave him some perspective. I was starting to feel sick. Riley, what exactly did you tell Alex about me? The conversation that followed was the most uncomfortable hour of my life. Riley, through tears and what seemed like genuine remorse, told me everything she'd been doing not just with Alex, but with every guy I'd dated for the past 5 years. Marcus didn't break up with me because he needed space. Riley had spent weeks telling him I was becoming obsessive and planning our future without consulting him. She'd shown him screenshots of texts I'd sent her about how excited I was about our relationship, framing them as evidence that I was moving too fast. I thought he was going to hurt you, she sobbed. You were already talking about meeting his parents after 6 months. That's too fast, Nat. David didn't ghost me because he lost interest. Riley had created a fake Instagram account and sent him photos of me with other guys from college, claiming I was cheating on him. photos were from before we were even dating, but she'd made them look recent. You went to that party at Jessica's without telling him. I thought you were being shady. I went to Jessica's birthday party. David knew about it. He had to work, but you were flirting with guys there. I was being friendly. Jesus Christ, Riley. Trevor broke up with me because Riley had told him I'd been talking shit about his friends and family behind his back. Things I'd never said, conversations that never happened. You always judge people, Nat. I was just translating what you were really thinking. I never said anything bad about Trevor's friends, not directly, but I could tell you thought they were immature. Having thoughts isn't the same as talking shit. But the worst part was finding out how she'd been doing it. Riley had been systematically getting close to every guy I dated. Not romantically. She's been with her boyfriend James for 3 years, but friendly enough that they'd trust her opinion about me. She'd position herself as the concerned best friend who just wanted what was best for everyone. She'd share insights about my personality, my past relationships, my patterns of behavior. She'd frame it as helping them understand me better, but really, she was planting seeds of doubt. I never meant for them to break up with you, she kept saying. I just wanted them to be aware of your tendencies. What tendencies, Riley? Being excited about relationships, caring about people, having normal human emotions. You get too invested too quickly. You start planning futures before the guy is ready. You get jealous when they have other priorities. According to who? According to me. I've watched you do this over and over. That's when I realized the horrible truth. Riley wasn't protecting me from bad relationships. She was protecting herself from losing me to good ones. Riley, why did you really do this? She was quiet for a long time, crying into her napkin, while other restaurant patrons tried not to stare at our table. Because I'm selfish, she finally said. Because when you're in relationships, you don't need me anymore. That's not true. It is true. When you were with Marcus, you'd cancel our plans to spend time with him. When you were with David, you'd rather text him than talk to me. When you're dating someone, I become an afterthought. Riley, that's called having a balanced life. I'm allowed to have a boyfriend and a best friend, but you always choose them over me. I don't choose anyone over anyone. I make time for both. It doesn't feel that way to me. And there it was. 20 years of friendship. And Riley had been sabotaging my romantic relationships because she was jealous of anyone who might take priority in my life. Do you understand what you've done to me? I asked. I've spent years thinking I was unlovable, that there was something fundamentally wrong with my personality. I've been in therapy trying to figure out why I keep driving men away. I never meant for you to feel that way. What did you think would happen? Did you think I'd just stay single forever and we'd be best friends until we died? I don't know. I just knew that every time you started dating someone, I felt like I was losing you, so you made sure I'd lose them instead. She nodded, still crying. What about Alex? What did you tell him? Everything about all your past relationships, about how you get when you're really into someone. I told him, "You have abandonment issues, and you'll probably start getting clingy soon." Jesus fucking Christ, Riley. I thought if he knew what to expect, maybe he could handle it better than the others. Or maybe you thought he'd run away like all the rest. She didn't deny it. I left the restaurant that night and drove straight to Alex's apartment. I needed to tell him everything before Riley could do any more damage. Alex listened to the whole story without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "That explains so much," he finally said. "Are you going to break up with me?" "What? No. Why would I break up with you?" "Because now you know. I have a psychotic best friend who's been poisoning every relationship I've ever had. Natalie, none of that was your fault. And honestly, I never saw the behaviors Riley was warning me about. You've been nothing but honest and reasonable with me. We talked until 3 a.m. about everything Riley had told him, how it had affected his perception of me, how fucked up the whole situation was. "I feel like an idiot for believing her," he said. "But she seemed so genuinely concerned about you, and she knew you so well. That's what made it so effective. She used 20 years of friendship to make her lies more believable." Update: it's been 2 weeks since the confrontation with Riley. I've blocked her on everything: phone, social media, email. She's tried reaching out through mutual friends, through my family, even showed up at my work once before security escorted her out. She left a 5-page letter in my mailbox, apologizing and begging for forgiveness. She claims she's realized how toxic her behavior was and wants to go to therapy to work on her jealousy issues. But here's the thing: I don't think I can ever trust her again. How do you come back from finding out your best friend has been systematically destroying your happiness for years? How do you rebuild a friendship with someone who saw you struggling with self-doubt and relationship issues and knew she was the cause? My therapist says I need to process the grief of losing not just a friendship, but my entire understanding of my past relationships. I'm realizing that maybe I wasn't the problem all those years. Maybe I was just a normal person trying to date while having a saboteur for a best friend. Alex and I are doing really well. We're taking things slow while I work through the trust issues that Riley created, but he's been incredibly patient and understanding. It's weird dating someone without having my best friend's commentary in the background, but also kind of liberating. So Reddit, here's my question: am I wrong to cut Riley out of my life completely? Part of me misses her, despite everything. 20 years of friendship is hard to walk away from, but I don't know how to forgive someone who hurt me so deliberately and consistently. Some people are telling me that everyone deserves a second chance, that if she's willing to get help, maybe we can rebuild our friendship. But I feel like she stole years of my life from me. Years I spent thinking I was defective instead of realizing I was being sabotaged. What would you do, Reddit? Is this something you can come back from? Or are some betrayals just too big to forgive? Story 2. So this happened about 3 weeks ago, and I'm still processing it. I, 24 male, thought I had found the one with my girlfriend Brielle, 23 female. We'd been together for 8 months. And honestly, I was already thinking about rings and future plans. She was funny, smart, gorgeous, and seemed genuinely into me. We worked at the same veterinary clinic. I'm a vet tech, and she's the receptionist, which is how we met. My best friend since middle school, Marcus, 25 male, is this ridiculously good-looking guy who works as a firefighter. Like, seriously, the dude looks like he stepped out of a calendar. We've been tight since we were 12, and he's always been the guy girls gravitate toward, while I'm more of the nice, reliable friend type. I'm not bitter about it. That's just how it's always been. Anyway, Marcus had been dating this girl Sophia for about 2 years, and they seemed solid. He'd bring her to our group hangouts, double dates with me and Brielle. All that couple stuff. Brielle always seemed to get along great with everyone, especially Marcus and Sophia. I thought it was perfect, my girlfriend fitting in seamlessly with my best friend and his girl. Boy, was I wrong. The whole thing started unraveling during what should have been a perfect weekend. Marcus had planned this big surprise for Sophia. He was going to propose at this fancy lakeside restaurant where they had their first date. He'd been planning it for months, showing me ring options, asking for advice on the speech, the whole 9 yards. I was supposed to be there as the surprise photographer to capture the moment. Brielle seemed extra excited about the dinner plans that Friday. She spent like 2 hours getting ready, which wasn't unusual, but she kept asking weird questions about Marcus. Do you think he's nervous? What if Sophia says no? Has he mentioned anything about being unhappy? I thought she was just being a good friend, worried about the proposal going well. We got to the restaurant early so I could position myself with the camera. The place was beautiful, string lights everywhere, perfect view of the sunset over the lake. Marcus showed up looking sharp in his navy suit, the ring box practically burning a hole in his jacket pocket. Sophia arrived in this stunning red dress, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. Everything was going according to plan. Marcus ordered champagne. They were laughing and reminiscing about their relationship. Brielle kept squeezing my hand under the table, and I thought she was just emotional about witnessing such a romantic moment. Marcus stood up, got down on one knee, and pulled out the ring. That's when Sophia said no. Not just no. She said she'd been seeing someone else for the past 3 months and couldn't keep pretending anymore. The entire restaurant went dead silent. Marcus just knelt there for what felt like an eternity, ring box still open, looking like someone had punched him in the gut. The aftermath was brutal. Sophia left immediately, and we spent the next 2 hours sitting in Marcus's truck in the restaurant parking lot, while he alternated between rage and devastation. Brielle was surprisingly quiet during the whole thing, just rubbing my back and saying things like, "I'm so sorry, Marcus, and she doesn't deserve you." Over the next week, I basically moved into Marcus's apartment. The guy was a mess, calling in sick to work, barely eating, just staring at the ceiling. I'd never seen him like this. Usually, Marcus was the one helping me through breakups and life crises. Seeing him so broken was terrifying. Brielle was being incredibly supportive during this time. She'd bring over homemade soup for Marcus, offer to pick up groceries, even suggested we all watch movies together to keep his mind off things. She seemed genuinely concerned about his well-being, which made me love her even more. Here was this amazing woman who cared about my best friend's happiness as much as I did. But then I started noticing little things, like how she'd linger when dropping off food, always asking if Marcus needed anything else. How she'd text me constantly when I was at his place. How's he doing? Is he eating? Does he need anything? At first, I thought it was sweet. She was being a good girlfriend and friend. The weirdness escalated when she suggested having a healing dinner at my apartment for Marcus. She wanted to cook his favorite meal and create a positive environment for him to process his emotions. Her words exactly. She'd apparently asked him about his favorite foods during one of her soup deliveries. The dinner was strange. Brielle had gone all out, candles everywhere, his favorite lasagna from scratch, even bought his preferred beer. She spent most of the evening sitting next to him on the couch, asking deep questions about his feelings and what he was looking for in a future relationship. I kept thinking it was nice that she was trying to help, but something felt off about the whole setup. 2 weeks after the failed proposal, I was having lunch with my coworker Jake when everything came crashing down. Jake's girlfriend Emma works at the coffee shop downtown, and apparently she'd seen Brielle there multiple times over the past few months. Not weird by itself, except Emma remembered because Brielle was always asking the baristas about Marcus. She'd come in and ask if the hot firefighter with the dark hair had been in that day. Emma had told Jake. She knew his usual order, what time he usually came by, even asked one of the girls if he ever mentioned having a girlfriend. My stomach dropped. I called Emma directly and asked her to tell me everything. Turns out, Brielle had been basically stalking Marcus's coffee routine for months. She'd figured out his schedule, started timing her visits to accidentally run into him, and had even asked the staff to mention her if he ever came in asking about that cute girl who was here earlier. And the worst part, this all started before she and I had even gone on our first date. I confronted Brielle that evening. She was at my apartment, cooking dinner like nothing was wrong, humming some song, and wearing this little sundress that I'd always loved on her. I asked her about the coffee shop, and she immediately got defensive. Who told you that? Emma. That girl has always had it out for me, but when I pressed harder, asking for specifics about her interactions with Marcus before we started dating, she finally cracked. Fine, Yes, I noticed Marcus first. He's gorgeous, okay. But he was dating Sophia, so he was unavailable. You were his best friend, so I figured if I got close to you, I'd eventually get close to him too. It's not like I planned for this to happen. The room started spinning. You've been using me this entire time. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought maybe I'd develop real feelings for you, and I did. Sort of. But Marcus is single now, and we have this amazing connection. I told her to leave. Just like that. 8 months of what I thought was genuine love, gone in one conversation. She tried to backtrack, saying she really did care about me, and that her feelings had grown real over time. But the damage was done. Every sweet moment, every I love you, every time she'd seemed genuinely happy to be with me. It was all just her playing the long game to get to Marcus. The next morning, I had to tell Marcus. He was finally having a decent day, actually ate breakfast, and was talking about going back to work. I felt like I was about to kick a man who was already down, but he deserved to know the truth. His reaction was not what I expected. After the initial shock wore off, he got angry. Not at me, at her. Dude, that's sick. She manipulated you for months just to get to me. What kind of person does that? He immediately blocked her number and social media accounts. I don't care how hot she is or how connected we are. Anyone who could do that to you isn't someone I want anything to do with. That's when I realized Marcus is a better friend than I deserved. Here he was, fresh off his own heartbreak, more concerned about how I'd been treated than any opportunity with a beautiful woman who was throwing herself at him. We spent that evening getting drunk and talking about how we'd both been played by women we trusted. It was therapeutic in the most depressing way possible. Update, posted 3 weeks later, so it's been almost a month since the Brielle situation exploded. And I wanted to give you guys an update because this story somehow got even weirder. First off, Marcus is doing much better. He went back to work, started hitting the gym again, and even went on a date last weekend with a nurse from the hospital. Nothing serious yet, but he's getting back out there. As for me, I'm processing. I started seeing a therapist because apparently being manipulated for 8 months does things to your trust issues. Who knew? But here's the kicker. Brielle showed up at my work yesterday. She cornered me during my lunch break and basically begged me to put in a good word with Marcus. She'd apparently been texting him from different numbers. He showed me the screenshots and even tried to show up at his firehouse before his coworkers told her to leave. She claimed that now that all the cards are on the table, we could start fresh, and she could explore her real feelings for Marcus without any deception. The audacity of this woman is truly astounding. I told her that Marcus wants nothing to do with her, and neither do I. She actually had the nerve to say, "But you two are best friends. He'll listen to you." So here's my question for you, Reddit. Am I crazy for thinking this woman is completely delusional? Part of me wonders if I should warn Marcus that she's not giving up, or if I should just let him handle it himself. Also, should I report her behavior to someone? The showing up at his workplace thing feels like it's crossing into stalker territory. And honestly, for those of you who have been manipulated like this, how long did it take before you stopped questioning every interaction you'd had with that person? Because I'm still finding myself analyzing every conversation, Brielle, and I ever had, wondering what was real and what was just her playing her part. What would you guys do in this situation? Story 3. I'm sitting in my car in a Walmart parking lot at 2 a.m. typing this because I can't even look at my fiancé right now without wanting to commit a felony. This happened yesterday, and I'm still processing the absolute mindfuck that my life has become. I'm Hannah, 27 female, work as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center. My fiancé, Jake, 29 male, is a plumber who runs his own small business with his buddy from high school. We've been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and I genuinely thought we had our shit figured out financially and emotionally. Our wedding is supposed to be in 6 weeks, nothing crazy expensive. We're having it at my aunt's vineyard in Sonoma. About 120 people, mostly family and close friends. We've been saving for 2 years, putting money into a joint savings account that we opened specifically for wedding expenses. As of last month, we had $8,400 in there, which was right on track for what we needed. Jake has always been good with money. Better than me, honestly. He's the one who suggested the joint account, who set up the automatic transfers from both our checking accounts, who made the spreadsheet tracking all our wedding expenses. He handles most of our bills because he's more organized about that stuff, and I trusted him completely. Now, let me tell you about Melissa, Jake's ex from college. They dated for 2 years, broke up about 6 months before Jake and I met. According to Jake, it was mutual. They wanted different things, grew apart, typical college relationship stuff. She moved to Portland after graduation for some marketing job, and I thought that was the end of it. Except Melissa has this habit of popping back into Jake's life at weird times. She'd text him happy birthday every year. She sent a congratulations message when we got engaged. Last Christmas, she sent him a card with a photo of them from college and some note about missing the good old days. I thought it was a little weird, but Jake showed me the card and laughed it off, so I didn't make a big deal about it. 3 months ago, Melissa moved back to town. Her mom got diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer, so she took a remote position and came home to help with treatments and recovery. Jake mentioned this casually one evening like it was no big deal. Oh, by the way, I ran into Melissa at the grocery store today. She's back in town, taking care of her mom. That's nice of her, I said, because what else do you say? Yeah, She asked about the wedding. I showed her the photo of your ring. It again seemed normal enough. I mean, we live in a town of 35,000 people. You're going to run into exes occasionally. Looking back now, there were signs I should have caught. Jake started working late more often, which wasn't unusual since his business was picking up. But he seemed distracted when he got home. He'd be on his phone more, claiming it was work stuff or wedding planning research. 2 months ago, Jake suggested we postpone looking at the wedding budget just for a few weeks because he was waiting on payments from some big jobs. I thought it was reasonable. Cash flow in small businesses can be unpredictable. 3 weeks ago, I wanted to buy my wedding shoes and needed to transfer some money from our wedding fund. Jake said he'd handle it and just gave me cash instead. When I asked why, he said the account was temporarily frozen because of some bank security thing, and it would be easier to just give me cash for small purchases. Last week, my maid of honor, Chelsea, wanted to split the cost of decorations for my bachelorette party. She suggested I just Venmo her from the wedding account since it was wedding related. When I asked Jake about it, he got weirdly defensive. Why do you need to access that account? I thought we agreed I'd handle the wedding finances. We agreed you'd help manage them. Not that I couldn't access my own money. It's not your money, Hannah. It's our money. And I'm saying we need to be more careful about unnecessary expenses right now. That should have been a massive red flag. But honestly, wedding planning is stressful. And I figured he was just being cautious. Plus, he'd been dealing with some difficult clients lately and seemed generally more stressed than usual. Monday morning, I was getting ready for work when Jake's phone started buzzing on the nightstand. He was in the shower, and normally I wouldn't even glance at his phone, but it kept buzzing. Like, insistently. The kind of buzzing that usually means an emergency. I looked at the screen and saw 5 missed calls from Melissa M. and 3 text messages. The most recent one, visible on the lock screen, said, "Jake, please call me back." The transmission completely died, and I don't know what to do. When Jake got out of the shower, I mentioned it. Melissa called a bunch of times, something about her transmission. His face did this weird thing, like he was surprised, but trying not to look surprised. Oh, yeah, her car's been having problems. I told her I'd take a look at it. Since when do you work on transmissions? I don't, but I know a guy who does. I was just trying to help her find someone reliable. Seemed reasonable. Jake's always been the type to help people out, even exes. I thought it was actually kind of sweet that he was being a good friend to someone going through a tough time with her mom's health issues. Tuesday night, Jake said he had to work late on an emergency plumbing job. Some lawyer's office had a pipe burst, and they needed it fixed before court the next morning. He didn't get home until almost midnight, exhausted and covered in dust. Wednesday, he worked late again. Different emergency. Something about a restaurant's water heater dying during dinner rush. Thursday, same thing. Friday, I was starting to feel like a single person again. Jake would leave at 7 a.m. and get home after 10 p.m., barely talking to me except to say he was exhausted and needed to sleep. Saturday morning, I decided to surprise Jake with breakfast in bed. He'd been working so hard all week, and I felt guilty for being annoyed about his long hours when he was obviously busting his ass to make money for our wedding. I went to transfer money from our joint checking to buy groceries for a nice breakfast. And that's when I saw the problem. Our checking account, which should have had about $1,200 in it, had $47. $40.7 fucking dollars. I logged into our savings account, the wedding fund, thinking maybe Jake had transferred money the wrong direction by mistake. The wedding fund had $0. $0. Empty. Completely cleaned out. I called the bank immediately, thinking there had to be some mistake, maybe fraud or identity theft. The customer service rep pulled up our account history and walked me through the transactions from the past month. Ma'am, I see 4 withdrawals from your savings account, all authorized with your joint account holder's debit card and PIN. The first was on October 15th for $2,100. Then October 22nd for $1,800. November 3rd for $2,500. And November 10th for $2,000. What about our checking account? Multiple ATM withdrawals and purchases over the past 2 weeks, totaling about $1,150. I sat in my kitchen staring at these numbers, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. Jake had systematically drained our wedding fund over the course of a month. Nearly $8,400 in total, money we'd both been saving for 2 years. When Jake got home around noon, claiming he'd been doing estimates for potential jobs, I was sitting at the kitchen table with our bank statements printed out in front of me. "Hey babe, what's all that?" he asked, kissing the top of my head like nothing was wrong. "Jake, where's our wedding money?" I watched his face change in real time. Confusion, then recognition, then panic. "What do you mean?" "Our wedding fund is empty. Our checking account has $47 in it. Where is our money?" He sat down across from me and ran his hands through his hair. "Hannah, I can explain. I really hope you can, because I'm trying to figure out if my fiancé is a gambling addict or if someone stole our identity. It's not gambling. Then what is it?" Long pause. Melissa needed help. Melissa needed help with what exactly? Jake looked like he was going to throw up. Her mom's medical bills are really high, even with insurance, and her car broke down, so she couldn't get to work or take her mom to treatments. She was about to lose her job. "Okay, so you loaned her some money. How much?" Another long pause. "All of it." I stared at him. "All of what?" "All of our wedding money." "You gave Melissa $8,400 of our wedding money. It's not gone forever, Hannah. She's going to pay it back." "When?" "As soon as she gets back on her feet." Maybe after her mom's treatment is finished. If Jake, her mom, has early stage breast cancer, treatment could take months. Our wedding is in 6 weeks. I know. But what was I supposed to do? Let her lose her job? Let her mom miss treatments because they couldn't afford gas? This is where I lost my shit. You were supposed to talk to your fiancé before giving away our entire wedding fund. You were supposed to discuss it with me before making a decision that affects both of us. I knew you'd say no. Of course, I would have said no. Jake, that money wasn't just yours to give away. She was desperate, Hannah, crying in the grocery store parking lot because she couldn't figure out how to pay for her mom's prescriptions and her rent in the same month. So you decided to solve her problems with our wedding money without even telling me. I was going to tell you after I figured out how to replace it. How exactly were you planning to replace $8,000 in 6 weeks? He didn't have an answer for that. That's when he told me about the emergency jobs he'd been working. Except they weren't emergency jobs. He'd been spending time with Melissa, helping her move her mom to appointments, fixing things around her house, basically being her boyfriend without the title. Are you fucking her? I asked. What? No, Hannah, it's not like that. Then what is it like? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're financially supporting another woman and lying to me about where you spend your time. She's going through a really hard time. Her mom might die, Hannah. Her mom has early stage breast cancer with a good prognosis. She's not dying. And even if she was, that doesn't justify what you did. That night, I called my sister Becca and told her everything. Becca's never particularly liked Jake. She thinks he's too controlling. But even she was shocked. He stole your wedding money to help his ex-girlfriend. Hannah, what the actual fuck? He says it's a loan. Did they sign paperwork? Is there a payment plan? Interest? Collateral? I don't think so. Then it's not a loan. It's a gift. He gave his ex-girlfriend your wedding as a gift. When I got home from work Monday, Jake was in the kitchen making dinner like nothing had happened. He'd spent the day trying to fix things by calling other contractors to see if anyone needed emergency help, trying to make quick money to start rebuilding our wedding fund. I talked to Tommy Rodriguez about that big bathroom renovation project. If I work nights and weekends for the next month, I can probably make back about $3,000. Jake, our wedding is in 5 weeks now. I know it's tight, but if we cut some things, cut what things? We're already having the cheapest wedding possible. My aunt is letting us use her property for free. My mom's friend is doing the flowers at cost. Chelsea's husband is DJing for free. What exactly are we supposed to cut? Maybe we postpone for a few months, so your ex-girlfriend's financial emergency becomes our wedding delay. Hannah, please. I fucked up. I know I fucked up. But I was trying to help someone who needed it. Someone who needed it more than your fiancé needed her wedding. That's when he said the thing that made me realize this relationship might be over. Melissa has always been important to me. I can't just pretend she doesn't exist because we broke up. important enough to steal from me. I didn't steal from you. I borrowed from us to help her, without asking me. That's called stealing, Jake. Tuesday morning, I drove to Melissa's apartment. I know. Confronting the other woman is never a good look. But I needed to hear her side of this insanity. Melissa answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, looking genuinely surprised to see me. Hannah, is everything okay? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Did you ask Jake for money? Her face crumpled. Oh God, he told you. So you did ask him. Not exactly. I was venting about how expensive everything is, and he offered to help. I told him I couldn't accept money from him, but he insisted. $8,400. It wasn't supposed to be that much. The first time, it was just $500 for my mom's copies, but then my transmission died, and my landlord raised my rent. And Jake kept saying he wanted to help. The first time, Hannah, I swear I didn't know it was your wedding money. He said it was from his emergency fund. So here we are, 3 days later, and I'm sitting in this Walmart parking lot because I can't sleep in the same bed as Jake right now. Today, I found out the full extent of the situation. It wasn't just our wedding money. Jake also borrowed $2,000 against his truck to give to Melissa, and he's been paying her phone bill for the past 2 months. When I added everything up, he's given her nearly $11,000 in the past 6 weeks. The kicker, Melissa's mom's insurance actually covers most of her treatment costs. The medical bills that were so urgent were mostly copays and prescription costs that totaled maybe $800. The rest went to her rent, car repairs, groceries, and other living expenses that she couldn't afford because she'd been shopping and eating out instead of budgeting properly. I know this because I talked to Melissa again yesterday. She showed me her bank statements and receipts, trying to prove she wasn't manipulating Jake. Turns out Jake was manipulating himself. Every time she mentioned any financial stress, he'd offer money. When she'd say no, he'd insist until she accepted. I kept telling him I could figure it out on my own, she told me. But he seemed to really need to help me, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Jake has a savior complex, especially with women he cares about. I'd seen it with his sister, his mom, even with me when we first started dating. But I'd never seen him lie and steal to fund his rescue missions. Update. Yesterday, Jake admitted that he's been having feelings for Melissa since she moved back to town. Not physical feelings, he claims, but emotional ones. He misses their relationship and has been using her financial problems as an excuse to spend time with her. I love you, Hannah. I want to marry you. But seeing Melissa struggling brought back all these protective feelings I used to have for her. So you decided to protect her with my money. Our money. No, Jake, my money. Money I earned and saved for our future together, that you gave to another woman to make yourself feel better about your unresolved feelings for her. We're supposed to send out final headcounts to the caterer this week, send final payments to the photographer and the florist, confirm details with the venue coordinator. Instead, I'm sleeping at my sister's house, and Jake is calling me 12 times a day asking if we can work through this. And Melissa, to her credit, has offered to pay back everything, but she's looking at a payment plan that would take over a year. She genuinely seems horrified that Jake used wedding money and had no idea about the extent of his financial support. So Reddit, here's my question. Is this relationship salvageable, or am I an idiot for even considering it? Part of me thinks Jake made a series of terrible decisions, but isn't fundamentally a bad person. Part of me thinks any man who would steal from his fiancée to support his ex-girlfriend is showing me exactly who he really is. Our couples therapist says we need to rebuild trust and establish better communication patterns. But how do you rebuild trust with someone who systematically lied to you for weeks while giving away your future? What would you do, Reddit? Am I crazy for thinking this might be fixable, or am I crazy for thinking it's not?